opening comment about tonight's game, and then we'll take questions.
Yeah, thought our guys, responded well to a disappointing performance against Oklahoma State. I thought the last 2 weeks we made a concerted effort to really clean up a lot of the things that, hurt us in that game, primarily just letting guys kind of drive it right downhill and get to the rim. We should have done a better job in prep for that game of just being in the gaps like we were in this game and mixing in more zone. You kind of saw that first group. We started out in our zone defense, and I think it really threw them off guard, and we were just constantly changing defenses from man to zone, and there was a lot of possessions where they were running zone offense against our man-to-man because we did such a good job, I thought, of being in gaps early in the game where it really disguised it as if we were in a zone. So credit to our guys for really locking into the scouting report. They've turned the ball over 17 times in the first half, which is that's a lot. 23 overall, and a lot of those came in the first 5 minutes of the second half when we went on a 10-0 run. So thought our guys had a great response. Obviously we threw a few guys in there in the starting lineup just to kind of mix things up, and was really proud of, the effort that Philip Jovic gave, played phenomenal, plus 24 in his minutes. Keyshawn Hall, obviously, just constantly doing a lot of really good things. I thought, Tahad, 5 assists, no turnovers in the first half. Like, his first 4 possessions, he dove on the floor for a loose ball 3 times. Like, I don't know if he dove on the floor for a loose ball 3 times all last year. And for him to do that, in the first 5 minutes of his run, I thought really sparked us and really got us going. So, the last 12 minutes, there was an 8-minute stretch there where we just weren't checking out. We were fouling too much. 82 free throws between the two teams. That's too many. We got to stop fouling. I think the first half they only shot 7 free throws. They shot 33 free throws in the second half. That's unacceptable. So got to clean that up a little bit. But obviously 100 points. Against a good Memphis team. I thought our guys did a really good job.
Questions for Coach?
What up? Good.
Over here. Go ahead. Either one.
For Steven, you mentioned Philip, but he's looked a lot more comfortable out there tonight. Just how much have you kind of seen him settle into just running with this team the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think every week he's just gotten, and we talked about this in a couple of pressers, like every week he's just gotten better and more comfortable. And, you saw like how quick he is when he puts the ball on the floor. A couple times he just drove right by their bigs and, put one guy on a poster, and then he got to the foul line 8 times, made 7 for 8 from the foul line. So, when he uses his speed and his quickness to his advantage, he's really effective. And, I thought he did a really good job, of really playing to his strengths. So every week he's gotten more comfortable, and I think he'll continue to do so. So obviously proud of him to see some results, because I think he drew 5 fouls, right? Drew the most fouls out of anyone on our team. So, thought he was very aggressive, very active. He just moves so well defensively. Does a good job of getting vertical at the rim without fouling. So just does so many like little things that are really hard to coach and hard to teach. He just naturally just kind of understands where to be on the floor at all times. So happy for him.
I guess you guys showed why y'all wanted to run some more zone there
Right.
Against Oklahoma State. Just the effectiveness of that. Y'all have talked about doing more of that, but to see the first time y'all really rolling out a ton to be as effective for some turnovers, stops with it. How pleased were you with that?
Yeah, I mean, he does a great job in practice of talking about getting your hands out and getting in a stance because it really shrinks the floor. And, part of it too is like not a lot of teams have zone offenses in right now, so I'm sure, they didn't have a ton in to kind of prepare for that. So, as the year goes on, it'll get more difficult, but, it helped us get in gaps. A team that's not a great shooting team, so it allowed us to not let them get paint touches. Probably one of their biggest emphasis was trying to get into the paint, and I thought we did a great job of keeping them out of paint for the first 30 minutes of the game and forcing them, into 3-point shots. They went 4 for 20 from 3. So, shoot 20% from the 3-point line. Obviously, it was effective. We rolled out a little 1-3-1 defense in the second half too, just to kind of mix things up and keep them off balance, and it helped us go on a 10-0 run to start the half. So, guys did a really good job of locking into the scouting report and executing.
Okay.
33 points off of 23 turnovers. Just talk about that effectiveness and turning defense and offense.
Yeah, I mean, they I think in the first half it was like 25-0 on points off of turnovers. So, And I told our guys, it wasn't us like forcing them into turnovers. We were just solid, and they just, continuously just kind of coughed it up. I told our guys, if you don't gamble, if you stay solid, if you stay in gaps, they will give it up. And sure enough, they did. But, obviously, it's one thing to turn somebody over, but it's also another thing to turn it into transition and turn it into points. So I thought our guys did a good job in transition of finishing around the rim, but also just playing under control, playing off 2 feet, and making the simple pass most of the game. We turned the ball over a little too much in the second half, but 16 assists is solid. I would like those numbers to be a little bit higher on 30 made field goals, but we talk about this team needing to turn offense in from their defense, right? It's gonna be a really important thing for this team because, as you saw, we're not that big, right? And they were able to get a bunch of offensive rebounds. So when we do turn teams over, we got to make sure that we execute and turn them into points. We did a good job of that today.
Taylor.
Y'all scored 7 points and forced 1 turnover in the first 60 seconds of the second half. How pleased were you with the energy that your guys came out with, having such a big lead at halftime?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about last year's team. That was one of the things that they struggled with. Now, they had big leads in every game because we were the best team in the country. But, I thought, they responded well to me at halftime, challenging them, saying, listen, like, we have got to do a better job of playing with a big lead. And we can't relax. We can't let up. We got to put our foot on their throats. And, the first 10 minutes of the second half, I thought we did a really good job of that. So, it's hard when you're up, up like that to continue to do those things. But we have to find a way to do it in the games that we're able to build those types of leads. We got to play just as well, when we're sitting on a 20 or a 30-point lead. It's not going to happen a ton, but we got to be able to obviously execute in those situations. But for our guys to have not played any 1-3-1 in a game, and we throw it in the first couple plays of the second half, very pleased with how they responded and how they made adjustments to it.
Let's take a couple more for Coach, and then we'll let Keith take questions. You got
What do you see from Kaden tonight, and what are your thoughts on his development so far after 2 exhibition games?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we know offensively what he's capable of doing. 15 points, he's a tough shot taker and a tough shot maker. But he had 5 turnovers. He's got to do a better job of making the simple pass, all right? And too many times he was trying to we tell him, throw singles, stop throwing home runs. He was throwing home runs all over the floor tonight. So he's got to do a better job of cutting down on his turnovers, because when he does cut down on his turnovers, he's going to be really, really good, really good. Okay, he hit some tough shots tonight. Played with a lot of fire. So really happy to see him have some success. We expect that from Kaden though. That's what he's been doing that all summer. He's just got to do a better job of cutting down his turnovers and making the easy pass. But thought he showed a lot of really good things tonight. First start, and to be able to go out there and perform against some really good guards. I think he showed that he's got a lot of potential for us. So I'm excited for him.
You mentioned rebounding could be an issue with this team, just being smaller. How important is Elijah Freeman's athleticism? I think he had 6 tonight. Just a guy who's maybe not as big, but just athleticism seemed to give you guys a boost for us.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple times I couldn't believe how high he jumped in some of those free throw set checkouts. We missed 12 free throws tonight, but I want to say of our 10 offensive rebounds, 4 of the offensive rebounds came off missed free throws. So we practiced that a lot, and it was great to kind of see our guys making moves in there and go getting the offensive rebounds. But yeah, I mean, Elijah was probably our best. Elijah and Key were our 2 best offensive rebounders in practice all summer. We did a really, we're going to watch 30 minutes I'll watch 30 minutes of film and see that we checked out pretty well for 30 minutes. The last 10 minutes though, we kind of reverted back to what we were doing all summer. Part of that is Philip wasn't in there, Key wasn't in there as much, Murph was in there, but some of our bigger, Sebastian wasn't in there because we had foul trouble. Some of our best guys at checking out weren't in the game late, but at the same time, I still expect those guys that played at the end of the game to finish possessions. That's what the expectation is. That's what the standard is. So, great to see Elijah obviously get his second opportunities. He had 4 steals in the first half too. That was just plugging gas, making plays. That helped us get the leads. He does so many little things that really impact winning, and that's why he's going to be such a big factor for this team moving forward.
one more for Coach Pearl.
Yeah, you said Murph probably wouldn't play more than 10 minutes. He gets 14 and gets to use all 5 of his fouls as well. But, just having him out there and him making some impact, coming off that injury scare, how important is that?
Yeah, no, it was great because, Murph's out of shape, and Murph's got to do a better job. Well, not a better job. He needs to stay healthy. Once he stays healthy, he's going to be fine. You see how effective he was. His 5 fouls, though, are very uncharacteristic because he just didn't jump, right? He was in legal guarding position every time. He just stayed on his feet. That's a foul every single time. So Part of the reason why he played more than 10 was because Phillip got hit in the stomach really hard in the second half, and I think he was just back in the locker room, so we had to play somebody because we were in foul trouble. So it was good for him because obviously he needed that burn. He needed, to kind of push his conditioning a little bit. 3 for 3, 2 rebounds, did a lot of good things out there. So excited to get him back to full speed.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys.
We'll catch you with the key if you want to scoot over.
It's that sheet.